So this week I started out my training with a 2K run with my daughter. I have to balance training life with mum life, and I try to integrate the two as much as possible. So this time I took my daughter with me and she went for a bike ride while I ran. And this was the first time trialing it out, and it actually went really well. I'm very pleased with this. Followed up the morning with doing some yoga together. I try to integrate as much recovery activity as I can. I'll be honest, I don't do nearly as much as I should, but time is limited, so I have to make the most with what I've got. I'm a big fan of a platform called Yoga for BJJ, which is yoga specifically for martial arts. And I find it really helpful because they have very specific videos for different types of either injury or soreness. Later that day, I went to daytime MMA session, cue my head coach doing ridiculous things in front of the camera, which happens just about any time my camera is seen by really any of my teammates. Today, we were working a sequence that started with a double leg takedown, working towards that top turtle position, controlling our opponent and flattening each other out. We spend an awful lot of time drilling and spar at almost the end of every session. Day 2, I had a morning S&C session, that's strength and conditioning for those who aren't aware. Cue my daughter jumping into scene as always. She's highly involved in my training, as I said, so she watches me work out, she watches me train and spar, and really she's highly involved in a lot of aspects of my training. She lives at the gym with me and does very well. This is part of my warm-up for the S&C session. I go on after this to do various weights and lifting exercises, really whatever my strength and conditioning coach, Paolo, tells me to do. Follow that up with an evening MMA session. And I'm partnering here with my friend Nat. We are working quite a few striking combinations, trying to set up those kicks, working different levels, and working up to the head kick. As I said, each of these sessions, we spend a lot of time drilling. Drillers make killers, guys. And at the end of the session, we always have time for sparring, which, much as that is my favorite part, I genuinely try to put as much work into the drilling as into the sparring, because that genuinely is where you build muscle memory. Day 3, I got an evening run in. Normally I would have an evening MMA session, but because of scheduling conflicts, I wasn't able to make it to MMA training, so I went for a short run instead, which is always good for my mental health. Day 4, I had another strength and conditioning session. I fit that in the afternoon. I try and spread it out between my sessions as much as possible, but sometimes I just have to squeeze it in when I can. So I did, again, anything that my strength and conditioning coach told me to do. Here I am struggling to get those weights up and taking a quick rest in between. My strength and conditioning sets vary a lot, and it depends on whether I'm in camp or out of camp. It depends on what we're working on specifically. I speak with my strength and conditioning coach about what my goals are and where I'm at in camp, and he helps tailor my program accordingly. In this scenario, these weights were quite heavy and they were a bit of a struggle for me, so we were doing fewer reps with a few seconds rest in between, and then I would do that 3 times. And then I'd have a longer rest and then repeat the set over again. Here I'm doing Xerxes squats. We started with lower weight as the warm-up, and then we slowly increase the weight with each set until I reach the max weight for the session, and I will repeat that, I think maybe 4 to 6 times. This was my max set for the day. I can't remember how much was on it, to be honest. But I think I did 4 to 6 reps of this. And I think we did it maybe 3 to 4 times. Again, we slowly increase the weight as we go, as we warm up for each set or each exercise. Lastly, here we're doing hanging leg raises, which short person problems. I had to use the bench to get up to the bars, and then when I kicked my legs up, the bench was in the way because, you know, I had to stand on the bench to get to the bars. So you can see me struggling to get my legs wide around the bench and still not swing too wide. Anyway, we got there, we sorted it out in the end. Session 4, I had an evening MMA session coached by one of my teammates, Emilius, who's a great fighter and a great coach. I partnered here with my friend Natalia, We've been training together for quite a while now, and we're working on, actually in this class, we worked a lot of different techniques. We did some takedowns, some groundwork, and a lot of specific sparring, which for those of you who don't know, it's when you're put in a specific position and you have to spar from that position specifically with a particular goal in mind, oftentimes. So for example, you might start in guard position and your goal is to pass guard or not have your guard pass, etc., etc. Here, Emilius is showing me a variation of the single leg takedown that I quite liked, actually. And then you get to see me trying this new variation on Natalia, playing around with it and trying to see how I can get it to work, making sure I've got all of the pieces right. So my classes, my training is a lot of experimentation, trial and error, and trying to have fun while we go, because if you stop enjoying the sport and if you stop getting to have fun while you train, what's it all for? You should be able to enjoy it. And when you get to enjoy a thing, you generally perform better as well. So anyway, I love getting to train with my friends where we get to have a bit of fun, work, troubleshoot, and improve our game together. Day 5, MMA. Again, cue people doing ridiculous things in front of the camera, as we've previously discussed. Here I'm training with my husband, which is actually a rare occasion. He trains BJJ and doesn't normally like to put the gloves on because for some reason he doesn't like getting punched in the face or punching people in the face. Anyway, he decided to join us for MMA today, and you can see here he had no trouble putting the gloves to use. But what we're actually working today is we're working on controlling that ground position. So we're working on controlling the top position, using our strikes to open up opportunities and working past the guard. Now it's my go to get to do the same thing, have my own back a little bit. And this is where the beauty of MMA comes in versus jiu-jitsu. I love that you get to use your strikes to open up opportunities. Here, you get in, you add a little bit of ground and pound, forces them to open their guard, and then that creates the opportunity where you can pass and start working and progressing on to other positions. Day 6, we had a little bit of open mat sparring and some pad work at the end. So I got a few rounds in with some of my teammates, and honestly, this is the fun bit. It's hard work, but this is what we love. And then I finished up the session with a few rounds of pads with my head coach, Mark, here. And yeah, that wraps up my week of training. You can see here when we're hitting pads, some of this is combinations we've been working for a long time, and so he can say 1 or 2 words and I know what's coming. Other bits, we're adding new things in. We're digging up old stuff that's been a while that we're touching up on, and there's a lot of moving pieces here when we're hitting pads. So you can see here, we're correcting little aspects as we go. It's not just about fitness and being active. It's about technique and precision and strategy. Also a bit of fun. So that's it. That's a normal week for me outside of fight camp. I got about 9 training sessions in. To be fair, I think outside of camp, that's towards the top end of what I normally get in. I'm normally somewhere between 7 to 10 sessions, depending on the week when I'm out of camp. I try to keep my training levels up, whether I'm in or out of camp. That way, if fights come up last minute, I'm always ready to take them. And yeah, this week, for scheduling and coaching purposes, this is what I was able to fit in. So I have lots of options and classes and sessions that I can pick from, and it really depends on what's available to me and what other things that I have going on so that I can fit my schedule and training together. Because at the end of the day, I do have a family and I do have other life responsibilities that I have to balance all the time. So hopefully that provides you a little bit of an insight into what my training sessions look like out of fight camp.